Sagittarian matters, Sagittarian matters. What's the matter with you? Sagittarian matters. Hello from the Sagittarian Matters Social Distancing Studios in Los Angeles, California. Listeners, today's episode is the second installment of our Queer Ultimatum crossover with my other podcast, The Gaymazing Race. In this episode, Karen Tongson and I will be discussing the entire season of Queer Ultimatum, minus the reunion, and our Queer Ultimatum Fantasy League, with special guests Dani, Wassel, and Amanda-Faye Jimenez. Today's episode was produced by Gaymazing Race producer Allison Holly, and the theme music for that show is by Kaya Wilson. Now please enjoy and stay tuned.
The Gaymazing Race, 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 the Gaymazing Race.
Welcome to the Gaymazing Race. And as you've already learned, the Gaymazing Race has had a zombie takeover from the Ultimatum Queer Love Season 2. I'm Karen Tongson.
And I'm Nicole J. Georges. Karen, it's like we got Toxo. It's like the Queer Ultimatum was the cat, and we somehow have toxoplasmosis, and now our gay podcast has been given over to Netflix instead of CBS.
It's true. I hope CBS doesn't get mad about that, but they haven't gotten mad about anything yet, so fingers crossed. Last week in our Ultimatum episode, I've alluded to the fact that we have a fantasy league that we're participating in. And we're very fortunate to have with us the creator of that fantasy league, Dani Wassel. Before I turn it over to Dani, we also have with us today, joining our panel in conversation, Amanda-Faye. Hi, Amanda-Faye Jimenez.
Hi.
So we're going to start with Dani introducing the Fantasy League, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of everything we want to cover of the Ultimatum, and especially the second drop. But Dani, tell us about the Queer Ultimatum Fantasy League.
Hello. I'm very happy to be here. So yeah, the Fantasy League, well, I guess specifically the league itself, I went through a startup called Fantasizer, and I highly recommend using them. They're incredible. And it basically is a startup that allows you to create a league based on anything you can think of. Because obviously there was not like a pre-made fantasy league for Queer Ultimatum, believe it or not. I don't know why. There's obviously like a ton, for sports. I don't really understand sports, but in that sporty world. And I think there are a few other reality shows that have done fantasy leagues, but nothing for Ultimatum. So this app kind of allowed us to really fabricate, and create this league that, we had, that I only could dream of. But yeah,
let's talk a little bit about how it works actually, because, we all get points. And I know everybody here probably in this room is going to be like, I don't know much about sports, or I'm not that into sports. Amanda-Faye, I know you love the WNBA.
Loves the ball.
I am in 3 fantasy sports leagues.
Okay.
NFL, NBA, and currently WNBA. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Amanda-Faye, do you want to tell us how typically a fantasy league works?
yeah, so you get to have your own team. So, my NFL fantasy league team is called Femme Supremacy. Usually you would make a name based on like a sports pun, but it stuck. Anyways, and then so your team takes players from different other team, like any team in the league, and you form your own team. So there's a draft in the beginning, and you draft players from other teams, and then based on their stats and how they're doing, your team gets points, and that's how, it's like a competition that way.
How did you adapt that to the Ultimatum, Dani?
So it was tricky because Netflix dropped the episodes in 2 different drops. So basically each person who was playing had 2 chances to, create a team. And, your team was 2 people from the reality show. and we created a point system for basically every kind of lesbian cliche that we could think of that was, quantifiable. That was kind of a tricky part, thinking of, objective judging guidelines. So we ended up, every single time someone cried, stormed out of a room, used the word processing. Second round, we did the word growth, connection. Anytime someone used one of these words, your team, and if you had that person on your team, you got a point. And then of course there were extra points if you were able to guess what couple stayed together or did not stay together ultimately at the end.
I feel so sad there were no nest cams this season in the bedrooms, because I think it would have been great to get points for pets on the bed during sex.
Yeah.
Like pets disassociating.
Yeah. Because from a production standpoint, it's such a cheap, easy thing to have, so like I was very curious why like creatively they decided to take those out.
Well, I wondered if it was maybe like all the lawsuits pending against kinetic content, if like Chris Colin was like, we got to play it safer or something.
I suppose, but I mean, it's funny because, I'm actually an attorney who work in reality TV, so I'm very...
You're not just a fantasy league person, Dani?
You're not, that does not... Creating reality fantasy leagues does not pay the bills, unfortunately. I've been working in reality TV for about 20 years. And so I do business and legal affairs. And so I'm very I know a lot about the legal landscape, and, the participant agreements that everyone signs, are really pretty ironclad and allow producers to film whatever they want. So I think it was definitely a creative decision. Maybe they felt as though the participants would, I don't know, maybe it was a privacy thing that they wanted more privacy for the participants. I really, truly don't know. Yeah, it was surprising to me.
Last season with Tiff and Mildred doing their weird, like before they broke up, doing their weird, like scarf kind of, like light SM sort of sex thing.
Yeah.
No, we really missed out on a lot.
Yeah, that was as we discussed last season, and as many people discussed, that was a kind of interestingly choreographed, lesbian sex scene for the masses, which was kind of interesting and exciting, even if some of us sort of were like, ooh, the scarf, whatever it is.
That's how we all have sex, right? Just to be clear. We all go through the scarf.
Yeah. And if there has to be, and, with the condos that they're in, they have to, they can't do the requisite breeze lightly blowing curtains in as the light filters softly through, which is a trope of new queer cinema and lesbian cinema. One more thing before we move on from discussion of the league onto just the meat of this, ultimatum sandwich show. And that is to talk about some of the interesting developments within the league and the WhatsApp chat, because it's not just the selection of players and we're all playing for points and there's a cash prize pool, etc. But, we're all in the WhatsApp chat. There are about 50 plus people in there, right? And I feel like there are different little micro economies of sociability and intimacy and other things brewing. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. I mean, I think queer people are just so hungry for community, especially related to reality TV, because truly it really doesn't exist. This is really one of the only reality shows that centers queer people. And ironically, even a show that centers queer people has to have a straight person as the lens to watch the show. It's not approachable enough for the masses. We need a straight person to make it a little more palatable. But, queer people are so hungry for that community that creating a WhatsApp chat to talk about this, people have really, really kind of clung to it. And, I had a bunch of people behind the scenes be like, who are all these people? Can we play a game for all the singles in the group? Kind of a reality behind the reality. And I was like, if you want to do that, go for it. So people have been sending kind of pictures, little bios, giving their astrological big three, maybe hoping for, again, some reality behind the reality. It's been a very cool social experiment as we watch a social experiment.
Amanda-Faye, what is your experience of this? Because I know that I was really delighted when I saw you pop into the thread. I hadn't realized that you were in the league because again, there were so many people in the chat. But then once Amanda-Faye entered the chat, I knew we were like in for some delight, insight, but also like, yeah, how are you experiencing the conversation in the league?
I'm having a great time. I'm like, am I in here too much? Am I revealing too much about how much free time I have? I like to talk about stuff in real time, and, Twitter was, wrenched away from all of us. Like, that was a place I would have gone before to check it out, like check out what people are saying. People not of exactly TikTok age. So it's nice to be able to just like talk about what's going on with peers, queer peers, and also just seeing everyone's bio. I'm like, so many people, are just people I kind of know but don't know. There's people I haven't seen in years in there. It's wild.
Yeah.
Okay. I have to tell both of you something, which is Karen and I had an episode last week where we had planned to talk about the first drop, and we didn't actually talk about any episodes. We just talked about the contestants and who they chose, and that took about an hour and a half. Wow. So today our task is to talk about the relationship arcs of each of the couples, but over the course of 9 episodes. What happened? But not a lot. It does actually feel doable, but we haven't talked about 9 episodes, and we're saving the reunion for next week. So anything you know now, pretend like you don't know it if you can suspend that belief.
Yeah. And I do want to say that, it's interesting, like, just also to refer to the chat, like having to think about the asynchronous viewing practices we all might be undergoing through this process. And you kind of like want to shout at the screen or like shout into the chat rather about like, Haley and Megan hooking up and things like that. We did get up to the ultimatum choices, the trial spouse choices. So I think that a good place to pop in would be to just sort of think about, and we did talk about trial spouses, the concept of the trial spouse and who ours would be, and who Nicole picked for everybody.
So Karen, who do you get, Karen? Because you had someone you wanted, then you had who I gave you. I gave Karen Haley, but Karen wanted Brittany.
Who would not want Brittany? But like, I ended up with Haley anyway. And Nicole.
I got Megan. Or Magan.
Magan.
Anyway, but let's just like kind of dive in. So, where we sort of left off was just the fact that these people are living with their trial spouses. And just sort of if you were to give us a gestalt of the trial spouse experience, Amanda-Faye, what do you think stood out in that trial spouse process?
Wait, Amanda-Faye, who's your wife?
Oh, who's my wife?
Your trial wife.
I think, if I was there, I would have been like choosing between AJ and Megan. I'm not going to lie right now. And I think I ultimately would have picked Megan. And so, but you already have her. So what?
No, we can share.
Oh, we can share.
There's enough hair to go around.
I get it too, yeah.
Are you, Dani, you're also?
Well, I think also though the mentality of like what exactly is your intent when choosing this, do I actually want to be like,
mixy?
Yeah, like how like, are we doing this for personal growth and to actually build the relationship you're coming in with? Because then I'm going to pick like a femme who I can like talk to as opposed to someone who I like want to get naked, Yeah. Like what really is your intent here for choosing a spouse?
Question. Cause I have something to full disclosure. Everyone's like, stop talking about it. I'm like, I literally can't. I'm in full perimenopause brain. Like, great. Things go in and then immediately leave. So last season were there that kind of like growth couple, like, Brittany and, Marita, like on TikTok are just so cute. And I obviously love what happened with that, but we're not there yet. But was there like a growth? I know there was 1 or 2 like forced couplings, but they weren't like, it wasn't cute like that, right?
We didn't have Femme for Femme last year that I remember.
Yeah. Okay. No, we had Vanessa and Ray, and I don't know if you want to call Ray Femme. Ray is a college basketball long hair. Right. But
she believes she fingered her. So
Well,
I think
there was controversy. Like Vanessa was like a particular kind of sexual chaos agent in the last season. And in all of the previews and trailers, they tried to set Marita up as that potential wandering eye person. That was a total red herring. But she also did end up in a femme for femme pairing. But what was behind your question, Amanda-Faye, actually, about the femme for femme pairings?
I was just thinking of like how, because of what Dani said, I was like, because that's really the smart thing to do. It's really hard for me to watch this show in any way thinking that I would do it, which I think actually would be more fun to watch it in that way, like put myself in that situation. But I'm like, I would literally never do this. It would ruin my life. But like, if I were to put myself in that situation, that is really smart. Like to be like, well, I'm going to pair with like the nicest, coolest person that I've been talking to all week so that I can grow. So I was just thinking like, I do think we saw growth with Marita and Brittany. And I think even their growth affected AJ.
mm-hmm.
And so I think that was a really cool element of this season. I was wondering if we saw that last season, but I literally don't remember.
It's an interesting idea. Like if the show continues, if that'll be kind of part of the mentality now moving forward of when choosing a trial spouse, are you picking with your dick, or are you picking with your, head or heart, head, heart, or dick? How exactly are we choosing? Yeah.
Well, like literally I would pick, I actually need to roll this back. I said Megan because I was picking with my dick, when the show first started. But I think, to get back to your question, Karen, about like the trials, like the beginning of the trials is always the part where I'm like, oh my God, like the part where they're like, let's sit in bed together. And so you wear your socks to bed or whatever. Like, I think if I was being really smart and I was on the show, I would pick based on who that would be the least awkward to do with. Like I think that would be the smartest thing to do, because like if like one slipped out in the middle of the night, would I be the least embarrassed with, you know what I mean? So yeah, that part of the beginning of the process is always so awkward.
Well, let's actually get into, because I think that there was a strategic choice made for growth in the trial spouse period, and that was AJ choosing Marie instead of Bridget or Marita.
Absolutely.
Well, I want to say, I'm so sorry to say that I believe a TikTok theory, but let's start talking about AJ and Marie. I want to say, I heard someone on TikTok say, I think that AJ and Brittany went on the show to promote Brittany's business.
Yeah.
And I think that's true. I think the man that will beatbox for you is the same man who will go on reality TV, cause a dust up at the beginning to get your names out there, and then actually be true to you through the process and meet up with you and have sex with you in the gym of the hotel or whatever they were doing for the duration of filming while ignoring her trial wife.
That's true love.
That is true love.
I mean,
Yeah,
watching
what do you
AJ
think
in
of
those first episodes, like, could you ever have imagined that AJ would be like one of the truest, bluest partner, like that they would be like one of the cutest partnerships?
I mean, we all think we should have chosen AJ, I think. Everyone that chose Megan many of us are now like, well, we really bet on the wrong horse here.
Well, yeah, but do you think that was calculated to pick Marie? Because it seems like the sexual energy, I think, certainly was there with Bridget. I don't think that AJ was faking it. And we discussed AJ as relationship tofu / a relationship chameleon, absorbing the flavors of whoever they're with, or being able to create and mingle in whatever way. But the choice of Marie then truly seemed calculated and a little bit cruel, honestly, once we saw AJ essentially abandoning Marie to herself, because it was just sort of like, well, it cemented this notion of Marie as a kind of dupe, as a mark, and in the way that Mel treated Marie as a kind of dupe or a mark. I don't know how you all feel about that.
Or also just like mommy. I feel like everyone kind of saw Marie as like, oh, you're mommy. You're one to take care of me. I can kind of use you to to get your care, but I don't really need to like, you know, respect you as a woman, respect you as a person. You're just kind of there to like offer this maternal support.
I felt like, I mean, this is jumping ahead, but at some point it became like battle of the moms, like mean mom versus nice mom, of Dana versus Marie, of Dana being like, I don't appreciate that behavior, and you're going to have to act better for mean mommy. And then Marie going up to people being like, I have so much faith in your potential, and I'll always be a home for you, a safe home. And that's true love. I also feel like let's talk about the lesbian elephant in the room, codependency of Marie. Also, I mean, and this is separate, but everybody projecting onto Mel her potential. The definition of codependency is being in love with someone's potential. Yeah. Right. And like not accepting where they are in that moment. So anytime Marie or Dana approached Mel and were like, I know you can get there and be into marriage and kids. I just know it. I believe in you. I was like, you don't have to, you guys.
Yeah. I mean, the dommy mommy of it all, we talked a little bit about Dana being a dommy mommy, but let's just talk about how she entered into her trial spousdom, actually.
How? I don't even remember.
Well, because she essentially corners Mel.
Oh, right.
At a mixer. You know, after Mel is actually shooting her shot with Bridget and being a bit flirty, we essentially get Dana cornering Mel and chastising her into committing to the trial spousdom with her. I mean, I don't know if you felt that was what happened, or if anybody else has a separate read of that.
I mean, Dana was very terrifying in the beginning. I remember, you know, like, I don't know if it was the edit or actually just, you know, before knowing people, like an aggression comes out. But yeah, she was incredibly terrifying. And it's kind of interesting, you know, the mean mommy, nice mommy dynamic, because, you know, eventually Marie really came out as the very aggressive, you know, angry person. But yeah, certainly when choosing the trial spouses, Dana was very demanding and basic. I agree, kind of didn't give Mel much of a choice. Yeah, but
Mel took Dana's aggressiveness as care. Mel was like, you're willing to fight for me. And I was like, what?
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about queer love insofar as what the ultimatum does is foreclose the possibility of queerness structurally, right? It's sort of like, it's, you know, queer love to me means something much more expansive, the open mesh of possibility, as Eve Sedgwick would say. But instead, the ultimatum really has such strict rules that you are going to have to essentially be partnered and or be willing to marry another person, or else like a relationship or some form of relationality can't exist beyond that. And we had the sort of tease of a throuple between Kyle, Bridget, and Pilar. We talked about it a tiny bit, and but you know, it's interesting that the show teased the throuple, but ultimately, I mean, it's not interesting. It's sort of like true to form, foreclosed it. But let's talk a little bit about the Kyle, Pilar, Bridget, throuple titillation, and then what ended up happening with those two. 3. Amanda-Faye, do you have anything to say about the throupling and the foreclosure of the throupling between Kyle, Pilar, and Bridget?
Yeah, I mean, I, like a lot of other people, really thought they were going to go there. I was like, oh, they're going to do it. Like, Netflix is giving us what we want. Because, you know, last time, the thing about last time that seemed so obvious, you know, when you're like, some of the couples, you're like, okay, these people aren't like really together anymore. Or I can't even remember what couple it was, but I was like, they're already open. So I was like, maybe Kyle and Bridget are already open. And they're here for that. And that's like, you know, it's going to happen. We're going to get like a 3-way, trial marriage so that they could try this out. But, you know, we didn't get it.
I mean, to me, that's what's so frustrating about this kind of show. And honestly, most reality formats in general, that it's so easy to actually, it would be so easy to queer this format, you know, and to make it flexible and to actually allow people, you know, I mean, to me, I was like, why don't you have 2 trial spouses also, so that you can not just experience one person, like what, you know, like the idea of dating before your spouse, it should be more than one person, you know, also like allow people to choose both, to stay together but not get married. There's so many reality formats that would be so great in a non-monogamous, you know, paradigm, yet like for whatever reason, the producers and the distributors say, no, we have to make this as heteronormative and, like as possible. So it's not surprising to me at all that, the production company and Netflix said, no, this must remain within these confines. And it's like kind of ironic that the show is called Queer Love when, as we all, it's straight love with gay people.
Heteronormative love. Wait,
Yeah.
I have 2 questions for our special guests. One question, Dani, I need to ask you, and then the other question is for both of you. But Dani, as somebody who's so well versed in reality TV, what do you think of the edit? Like, Karen and I talk a lot about how, like, on The Amazing Race, which is what we usually talk about for our show, on reality TV, you're meant to be able to track the trajectory of the winner. So, whoever's getting a lot of airtime in the beginning is who you need to follow. And that's probably who's going to go to the end. And the people who aren't are not going to actually rise to the complete top.
Yes.
But I wonder, what did you think about the edit from all this? And also the sex and groans and moans that we saw from Data and Mel.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because last night I thought there were a few editing holes. We saw a few holes editing wise. There were like a few plot points that I hosted a party, so there were a few substances involved. So I'm forgetting the exact details. But at the time I said like, oh wait, that wasn't, conveyed like the editing, there were some holes, I thought. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, all of these kind of formats, from the start, the editors know how many episodes there are. The story arcs are laid out. When episode 1 is being edited, most of the time, who wins. So as you said, everything is very strategic, including the moans. We knew that we had to come back to that. Everything is very strategic. I mean, it's unscripted, we call it unscripted television, but it's certainly formatted.
Highly formulaic. Yeah.
Yes.
I have a question for Dani, actually, and all of you guys. Again, I didn't even remember that there were cameras in the bedroom last time, but yes, that's huge. Is it possible, do you think that, because the big thing of this season was what is set, did they or didn't they? Is it possible that they had cameras and then took them out to advance that plot point, or would they not do that?
I suppose it doesn't really make sense to me. I mean, because we all know that kind of grainy black and white security.
Right, that's true.
It looks like it's not like it's not like there's cameras under the covers. Oh my God. Next show, right? A little yeah. So I don't know why, it's not like that would have given proof, as to whether there was intercourse, quote unquote.
Right.
Why were they calling it intercourse? It's so weird. We were talking about this a second before you jumped on. I'm not sure, again, from a production standpoint, I'm not sure why they didn't have the, security cams. Because again, from a production standpoint, it's very inexpensive. It's easy. They're unmanned. It's not like you have to have additional crew. It allows you to film when you don't necessarily have crew standing there. So it's very odd to me that they didn't have those.
It created such a mystery with the moans.
Unless
I feel it was an effective use of sound and sound design, as opposed to, say, the kind of over choreographed one lesbian sex scene we got last time, right? But it's also just the idea of having receipts, which we're going to get into in a moment. Before we totally leave behind, the reason I brought up the Pilar, Bridget,
Kyle
thrupling, though, is that I still feel very much for Pilar, who obviously wanted to have an exogamous sexual experience, but was frustrated by, the scenario that she found herself in. And I think that goes to the point of choice. What do you choose for? What are you there for? What kinds of personal growth? Personal growth could mean sexual experience in a way that, your couple formation has precluded in the past, or the fact that, she's basically only been with one woman ostensibly. I'm just hoping that for Haley and Pilar, that the experience of the ultimatum and the survival of the relationship, seemingly through the blip of Haley and Megan, or Hagen, or whatever they're called, affords a flexible understanding of what their future could look like eventually. But anyway, I know that I've skipped many steps, but I just wanted to get back to that aspect of the trial couple.
Yeah.
Well, I had a sort of revelation about them, but I mean, so we're going in chronological order, but I feel like by ultimatum day with Haley and
We
Pilar,
don't have to at this point go in chronological order. We're discussing all that.
Wild West. I know these dogs are barking. I'm sorry. Cause I had the same thought as I think everyone else was like 18, 10 years. Like, that's crazy. That's so sad. Like, I can't believe they didn't get to do this or this. And then when they were coming together on ultimatum day, I was like, wait a minute. That's not even my personal experience, actually. Like, I've only had 2 relationships, one of them now 18 years long. So I'm like, I think that's very like what we all want for everyone is like to have lots of different partners and get to like experience what even I, as someone who is relatively inexperienced in that specific way, is like, that's what everyone should want, right? To like date around and have sex with lots of people. But I'm like, what if this is fine? Like, I think we devalue longevity as
we as the queer community, right? I mean, the straight heteronormative world, we're supposed to meet someone in high school and, get married at 22 and live together.
I mean, I think they're shifting. They have shifted to now, like, what are we all, like, trad wives are back or whatever. But I'm like, maybe that is like really beautiful that they were together so long and chose each other. But the blip is what is interesting. Like, so Haley got to have sex with someone else and Pilar got that really uncomfortable thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know I mentioned this last episode. I was thinking about it this week. So there was, this moment where Pilar and Kyle get together. Kyle, who I've completely soured on. I just like, I had chosen Kyle as my backup trial wife because I thought it could be just like, I could kind of ignore them, but like, and just get through the experience because I don't need another person to hold me while I'm crying about my partner in the other condo. I just like want to be left alone. But so there's the moment on the show where it's like they were cuddling, they're getting close. They go to the club, no cameras. They go to the club, no cameras. Pilar's like, you want to kiss? Kyle's like, no. Pilar comes up, makes out with Kyle. Then afterwards, Kyle's like, that made me uncomfortable. And Pilar just gets in a defensive crouch and is like, you led me on, more or less. And I just want to say that Pilar also had the option to say, oh, I'm really sorry. I really misread that. You could just say, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable. Like, that's an option if you make someone physically uncomfortable, even if you feel really entitled to.
Yeah. That was the difference in that moment of like, when, like, are you going to be like, oh no, cringe, poor Pilar? Or are you going to be like, ooh, that was really bad, Pilar. You shouldn't have done that. Like, yeah, she did that.
Well, and we were split opinion-wise on the last pod about that because Greta was very much Team Pilar in that scenario.
I mean, yeah, the editing was odd there again, because then when Kyle got back with Bridget, I mean, right, because there were slight like abuser accusations potentially, with Pilar. Pilar, did you take advantage of Kyle when she was drunk? There was definitely, it was unclear. But then when Kyle went back with Bridget, and disclosed the kiss, there was no mention of she took advantage of me. Like there was no, which is, to me seemed odd because if it was sort of a loose abuse situation, why wouldn't she have mentioned that to Bridget saying, yes, there was a kiss. However, this was non-consensual. And, I did. So yeah, to me, there was a little question. Again, I blame the editing. That we don't really know what happened there.
Greater ambiguity there. I'll also say, in the interest of getting us through the trial spouse gauntlet here, is that once we saw basically Kyle and Pilar commit to each other in that choice process, and once we saw that AJ was, like Mambo number 5ing her way through the entire cast, Bridget was very canny. And immediately homed in on Ashley, who I forget exists this season most of the time.
Who are you talking about? Yeah.
I feel terrible for that because eventually, as we'll come to see, in the final episodes and and we'll talk about it when we talk about the reunion episode, there's a more maybe behind Ashley and their reticence, but it was almost like Ashley was sort of just kind of instantly almost like kind of clubbed over the head and like, be my trial spouse. Yeah. Bridget knew how to, basically put herself in that position, when she was to prevent what happened in a kind of femme to femme pairing that resulted in Bridget and Marita.
Wait, I need to ask our guests something. As people with curly hair, I just need to disclose that you both have curly hair. Did you see that Bridget posted a video on Instagram that was defending what happened to her hair in Florida? Can you both speak to what was happening?
Honestly, I do. And she and I do have quite similar hair, I think, which, and the whole time while watching it, if we're going to like go a little bad, but I just wanted her to like fluff it, I was like, she had like a little weird helmet hair. And like, I was like, fluff your head, please, like add the volume. Let's get some personality here. And she defended her, her bad hair by saying, oh, it's because we are in Florida. However, that makes no sense because we all know in Florida, there's a higher level of humidity and therefore you'd have more body, not less body. Unless, of course, she was like trying to overcompensate and using like more gel. You think that's what it was, Amanda-Faye?
That's what happened. Because I do that too. I do. Okay. Because I saw like, I was like, oh, that's her style. But then when I saw that she didn't like how perfect her curls were, I do that all the time. Like, cause I finger curl my curls.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I love fingering, hair things. I set it. And then sometimes when it's set, it's hard to like know when to fluff it out. It has to be perfectly dry. So she probably got scared and thought that if she like separated it and made it too crazy, that the humidity would make it too crazy. So she left it in that really like Jerry Curl-esque place. And I have totally done that. So I think
a metaphor for her relationship with Kyle, right?
Yeah.
She was scared to really shake it up too much. So she, yeah.
I wonder if we can get to the meat of the episodes. Can we talk about the M's? Can we talk about Mel, Marie, Megan, Dana, Haley? The mess, the real deal.
Yeah,
what
they're the core couples.
Yeah.
They're basically, that's, the show ends up being built around these two particular choices. We've already talked about a little bit about Dana cornering Mel and being Dami Mommy and that being a sign of love and Mel choosing Dana for that reason. And then let's kind of start with Megan and Haley, actually, who, as Nicole said, seemed to have been thrust together because like when Megan was feeling distraught in this scenario and uncomfortable and awkward, suddenly she was presented with Haley and it's like, baby, we're the same. Taurus on Taurus. Let's do this. What did you think about Megan and Haley? What were your feelings for the first drop versus the second drop? Amanda-Faye.
Like, I think I felt that Megan and Haley were going to be sort of a Marie and AJ situation where it was immediately going to be like, just kidding. We're just friends. Like, and Haley's, the gender makeup of it all, like not the butch femme always has to be a thing, but with the casting, they're casting butch femme, like theoretically they're, going to be attracted to each other. I wasn't sure how to read Haley's gender presentation at first because she is also like a muscle mommy and like very confident and like in that way. So I was like, are they same for same? But, Haley, I think emerged as a little more on the femme side. So yeah, I thought they were going to friend zone. So I was very surprised when they started, actually vibing and pleasantly surprised. Like I was like, this is so cute. Like, same for, I was like thinking of that. Who's the strong woman from Encanto?
One.
Yeah. I was like, oh my God, it's two of them. And I loved that. I thought it was really cute. So that surprised me. And I sort of did then believe Megan when she was like, this is new and good. I've never been with someone who's similar to me. Like I fell for it.
Dani.
Oh my God. I loved them as a couple so much. I mean, I love earth signs. I'm like a slut for earth signs, like, so the Taurus connection, like I could like just feel the soothing energy, and like I felt like the calm between them was just going to be like rising in this like erotic. I fucking loved it. I believed in them so much. I felt like they brought out of each other this, like, we hadn't seen kind of like this like calm energy in either of them. And then together they just created this like new passionate calm. So I was so hard in their direction. I loved them as a couple. And and so it's funny, Amanda-Faye, that you didn't necessarily think that they had like the sexual connection. I was like salivating watching them. And then when Megan kind of went the other direction, it was devastating to me. At first, I completely just blamed Haley. I was like, oh, she's just a master manipulator, and you could even feel Megan's energy change, when she's around Haley. I thought she became a little bit more defensive and a little bit more kind of.
Dana, you mean, or?
I'm sorry. Oh, yes, Megan around. I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry.
Her original spouse, Dana.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Can you describe the turn for listeners? Like what happened what Megan's turn was?
Yeah. So as soon as Megan got back with her original spouse, Dana, it was literally, and that was another editing issue. I thought that they didn't really say a lot about her, like where her head was. Cause at first, we had, Megan so in love with Haley, saying she was in love with Haley, seemingly ready to leave Dana. And then as soon as she got back with Dana, she was so in love with Dana again, and ready to start their new life together, and just completely saying, oh, Haley was just a blip in as you said, tofu.
Haley and Megan using the term in love to me was so wild. Like usually on these shows, they will use the euphemisms that we know so well that we even had them as points in the fantasy league. Connection, special, gonna be in my life forever. Like, they that kind of thing. But to be like, we're in love. I'm in love with her. I'm in love with her. I was like, what? Like that.
3 weeks.
That was wild. Yeah. Yeah.
Powerful 3 weeks.
Yeah. I know some people who go there faster, but
well, so
could never be me.
Haley and Megan are following it, or they're kind of keeping it on the edge. And then they go to a cocktail party or no, they get both iced out by their partners at the pool. That's what it is. And so then they decide to go whole hog. Meanwhile, there's a cocktail party, and at the cocktail party, who does Haley tells somebody that she has proof that
Haley tells
Marie,
who is
Haley tells Marie, Mel's original partner, that she has proof that Dana and Mel are fucking. And so then we're like, what? And then the end. So we've seen Dana at this point take off her shirt in front of the camera and run into the bedroom. We've heard moans and groans. We've heard, as subtitled, Mel make jokes about her dirty fingers. We have seen them swap a used piece of chewing gum. We've heard them talk about wanting to watch each other pee, and never wanting to be apart for even 1 second. So then.
That's Mel and, Dana.
Mel and Dana. So then, right? Dana is livid that Haley was talking like this, because I guess Marie corners Mel in a car. They're in an SUV or something, and
like a yellow sports car, I think it was.
Or it was red. They're in a car, and basically it's like the middle of the night. Marie's eyes look. Marie's like, when Marie finds this out after the cocktail party, she's like, I'm gonna find her. I'm gonna kill her. She basically was like, I'm gonna walk up and down the halls of this megaplex screaming Mel's name until I find her. She corners her in a car, and she's like, Mel, did you sleep with Dana? Did you fuck Dana? Did you guys hook up? And Mel just shakes her head, lying like a rug. Yeah. What do you all think of that moment? What happened?
The head shake was a like, yes, like she might as well shown her video of it happening. Like so I'm like, is this like a problem with production? Like like the narrative. You guys are so good. And I listening to the other episode of so I'm trying to keep it to like what we saw happen and not try and go behind the scenes and be like, what did they do here? What did they do there? But I'm just like, yeah, like did Marie, the way that Marie was just like, okay. I was like, what? Cause to me that head shake was damning.
That to me just spoke to Marie's, I don't know if I want to say it's gullibility, but I just want to say that it's
codependence.
Codependence.
Propensity to believe, the kind of fear of losing. I think that many of us have either been or seen or maybe been on the other side of a person who is like utterly willing to live in the delulu of a world that they don't want to fall apart. Right. And I think that that's what we see enacted when Marie so quickly, and maybe it wasn't as quickly because of the edit, who knows, but essentially accepts what on the surface seems to be the very worst poker face tell ever around the revelation of, I suppose unsanctioned hookup activity with a trial spouse.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the unsanctioned question, I think that would be really interesting if they actually include, like maybe this is like a behind the scenes or, like later episodes, or maybe it's in chronological order, but I would love to hear the conversations that each couple has about the rules, what they're allowed to do and not allowed to do with their trial wives.
That would have given us stakes. They did that last season where people were like, we're not going to hook up. And so then you get to have the suspense as a viewer. Oh my God, are they going to hook up? Oh no, we just saw them break the rules.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, and like from a storyline perspective, I think that would really help. And also like giving the what we were discussing before, how are you choosing your trial wife? Brain, heart, or dick, like that would allow us to say, well, we know this person is trying to use their brain to choose to pick, like they're not allowed to have sex. They're using, they're doing this to strengthen their first relationship. But like we lacked that, we didn't really have those conversations. We didn't really know why people were choosing everyone. So then when there is this ambiguity about sex, like, is it allowed? Is it not allowed? As viewers, we're just kind of left in the dark a little bit.
That's where, some of that exposition would be really helpful. I think that, what did I want to say about Mel? I mean, Mel's Clintonian excuse about sex, not sex, whatever it is. Also the fact that the producers seem to have asked everyone about what constitutes, to bring it back to your point earlier, Dani, what constitutes sex in a lesbian world, right? Where is the line? Fingergate from season 1 was certainly, a controversy. They probably did that as a result of the response to quote unquote Fingergate, right? Versus, obviously Yali and Xander were getting busy in their condotel. But, in this instance, it seemed that people were kind of ready to do as they were saying, to go the full experience. I know that's a conversation we see Megan and Haley having, right? About how do you feel about being physical? And we should play it by ear. We should see how things unfold. I think that people are forgetting there was a semi-reasonable conversation negotiating boundaries and like physical boundaries between Hagen, versus, I guess Mel and Dana seemed, or at least were presented in the edit, to have already known they were going to get mixy from the jump.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so Megan gets out of that car after lying to Marie's face, flips the greasy beaver tail of hair over her shoulder with a thud, and starts texting Dana immediately. And then Mel and Dana are like, please, why did Haley say that? They turn it on Haley and they're like, well, how would she know? What did she hack into the producer's tapes or something? Which to me was very telling. Like, okay. Well, so anyway, so they're like, they've got nothing on us. So then can we go to the table reveal of the receipts just to button up their storyline? So we get to this table later where everyone's about to get back with their original moms. And, everyone leaves their foster family, goes back with their biological mom and anyway, can somebody talk us through the receipts?
Yeah. So, once they get to before they're going to resume or leave their trial spouses and return to their original spouses. But Nicole, it seems like you just remembered something.
Dani's gotta go.
I'm so sorry. I wish I could sit and chat. I have my own behind the scenes reality business I gotta take care of.
Thanks for joining us, Dani.
Thank you all so much. This was great. I can't wait to listen to the conversation when I leave.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
All right.
Let's get into it. Let's get into the receipts. Yeah. Let's get into the playlist of it all.
First was what's happening here? Because I couldn't remember if Haley I know she said she had receipts, but I couldn't remember if she said, I know that they had sex, like those words, or that they fucked. Because they kept using the term why did you say that we fucked? Why did you? And I was like, did Haley say that? I couldn't.
She said proof.
Remember. She said she
I
had
have
proof, but
proof.
did she say proof that
They hooked up.
Yes, exactly. So I feel like the semantics obviously became very important in all of this. But yeah, so Haley then is kind of like, she's kind of backpedaling a little bit. I feel like she's saying, I didn't say that. She's saying it wasn't like that. And then I believe that, Megan jumped in and saved her, like, and threw her the life. So like, this was what the proof was. This is what we saw. The Spotify playlist came up on our TV. We saw that there were playlists made and the songs were sexy. It was clearly a sex playlist. And then like when Megan said, you took 4 songs that are our special songs, like from a playlist that you made me, and put them on this playlist for Mel, one of them including our song. Like, I just feel like the room was like, and just like watching, Mel and Dana's faces, like even they were like, yeah, that was fucked up. You know, like it was so it was like, I thought an admission was like a big thing was about to happen, but yeah, they copped to the Spotify thing very easily, but they still didn't say, yes, that's what happened. So I was like, was that the proof? I was left a little unsure if that was meant to be the proof, but it was, right?
I think one of the tackiest things that anyone can do is to, be trite and repetitive in their romantic or sexual gestures towards another person. I think back to the Star report that revealed Bill Clinton's affair with Monica Lewinsky. And the tackiest detail that I recall from that is that he gifted Monica the same a first edition copy of Leaves of Grass, Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass, which he gave to Hillary when they were in college. And the dude was just so trite and uncreative that he did that again. You know, he played the same song, so to speak, to stick with the metaphor that is adjacent to the Spotify playlist thing that actually happened. And I'm just like, if you can't pick a different song, you know, if you can't understand the sort of individuation of this other person and whatever is going on in your erotic entanglement or what have you, then there's something wrong with you.
I know. I mean, they were going on. I mean, Marie and Dana not Marie, Mel, poor Marie. She keeps getting dragged into this. There's too many M's. Mel and Dana were just going on and on about, oh, can we never leave this apartment? Can it just be us? We're so connected. And I would like to think that in the age of streaming, in that time, they could have found their own songs for each other. So yeah.
But don't forget their theme that they keep going back to is we make bad decisions. And so as part of those bad decisions, before everyone went back with their new mom, Mel and Dana got matching shamrock tattoos.
Oh my God. I mean that it could have been worse. Like getting matching tattoos that I think they fucked up because getting matching tattoos was supposed to be the like, pow. But the fact that they were shamrocks just then took over the bad decision. Like that was the bad decision, you know? Ugh. Yeah. That was upsetting.
The matching tattoos, which we come to learn is actually another sore point for Megan because all of Dana's promises, essentially like Dana's special playlist, Dana's special songs for Megan, Dana's promise to get a matching tattoo when the experience is over as a point of bonding, end up being totally shared with and in fact initiated with Mel.
Do we believe Dana that she forgot that Megan had said that she wanted that?
I think that Dana is I'm not going to call her a narcissist because I just can't, but if she was a malignant narcissist, I think that she's so about herself and her thing and her unrecovered whatever that I think she probably can't even clock that something is special to another person and keep that in her mind for more than 3 seconds.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
I mean, I just think saying you forgot something like that, that would be grounds alone for me to walk away from somebody who forgot like something that's like seemed to be an important promise or like a kind of, like, oh, I just forgot and therefore I did this with another person.
I forgot you wanted to go on a date to Pazzo Gelato. I'm sorry I took Mel first is maybe reasonable, but not matching tattoos.
Exactly. Exactly. I forgot that you wanted to try that sandwich at this, at this new Armenian place in Glendale versus, like I forgot that that was our song or that, you wanted to get matching shamrock tattoos or whatever the fuck, right?
I don't know when or why, but we find something out about Dana and Megan's relationship, which is that when Dana feels upset, there was some point in the show where Dana called Megan and screamed, "I'm breaking up with you." And Megan was like, "Bye." And then Dana was really upset about that because Dana saw this as a cry for help. Dana saw screaming, "I'm breaking up with you," as her saying, "I'm wounded. I'm injured. I really would use some care. I could use some care and support right now. Can you remind me that you love me?" But instead, Dana screams, "I'm breaking up with you." Megan's like, "Bye." And then Dana says to the whole table at the ceremony, at whatever the final table is, Dana's like, "Can you guys believe that? If your partner said, 'Have a safe flight,' can you even believe it?" And no one is actually on Dana's side.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the point where I was like, the first point where my little red flag, like, woo, woo, came up about Dana was when she was so aggressively pursuing Mel, like, going up to Mel and being like, "Why are you ignoring me? Why aren't you giving me what I want?" But like, so that to me was like, oh, is this girl, this is bad news. But that thing, like, again, like, to use the word triggered lightly or not lightly, but I do mean it, like, sort of like that kind of bad, for me, bad femme behavior of being like, "I'm going to break up with you because, I'm upset. Like, I'm going to say this." Like, that is, that was triggering to me. I'm like, oh, this is me in my 20s. Like, this is me unhealed. This is me at my worst before program. You know what I mean? Like, calling someone and immediately being like, "This is how I'm going to get attention." And that's when I was like, oh, she's not cool.
Well, I mean, that is a major event. If we are to think of standout events, the car confrontation between Marie and Mel is one of them. But the moment where, and we get certain flashback footage of this, apparently, Dana feeling as if she's losing her grip on Megan. And I think losing her grip is an apt way of thinking about it because I don't think it's about like concern or care. It's about control. Or at least it presents that way given the material that we've been given, right? And then to the fact that Megan stood up for herself, the fact that Megan, articulated herself as an individual, the fact that she expressed a boundary, right? And wasn't immediately available to whatever Dana needed or wanted in the form of reassurance in that moment. Just the articulation of a boundary became like absolutely devastating for Dana. She falls apart.
And the response being, "This isn't you." The response to a boundary being set being, "This isn't you. I don't know this person." That is so, that was bad.
That's hard. I feel disappointed in my trial wife. I feel disappointed. There's just like this thing that's kind of like people-pleasing passive person where you are kind of like, well, if you can just get swayed by whatever lady's yelling the loudest, then I guess I don't really want that. Cause I don't want to feel like you're with me just cause I yelled the loudest at you or I scared you the most. And so I feel I'd have to leave my trial marriage at some point. I have to pull an Aussie and move out on my trial wife and be like, you guys just need to work this out,
I know that Amanda-Faye is still inside me because when you said, the one that scares you the most, like this little part of my brain was like, so, okay, no, I'm back to being healed.
What do you mean? Like you were like, maybe I could scare Megan the most.
Yeah, exactly. Could I win Megan from Nicole by scaring her more?
But in those moments, I'm just like, please do. I'm just like, Megan and Dana, it seems like you guys have a lot to work out. Someday, if this feels more calm, you have my number. I might be married to Pilar by that point. I don't know.
Also, to be fair and say, like, I really did like turn against Dana in that moment when the boundary was set and she was like, "This isn't you." But later, Haley said, "This isn't you" about Megan, going back. So I'm like, oh, this is a Megan issue too. Like, it's not like, I think I was very quick, like most of the internet, as we've now seen, to like jump on the Dana hate train. But moving along, I'm like, oh, this is who Megan is. Like that started to become clear. Like this is also who Megan is. This is what Megan wants right now. Is
the passive person who, the passive person who can't take accountability or exercise their own agency.
Yeah.
I do agree with you, Amanda-Faye, that the minute Haley says the same thing about Megan as Dana, we know for sure like what level of accountability and culpability Megan has in creating these scenarios and situations. I think that we should talk about the return to their spouses, and, you know, what changes or what doesn't in those moments, because, you know, obviously I think the most interesting episodes of any season of The Ultimatum are the trial spouse period. It generates drama. It generates surprise. It creates the occasion for, again, exogamous physical intimacy, and, you know, and it presents us with novelty, right? The idea of people who don't know each other, you know, getting to figure out boundaries or trampling all over them, right? But when we get the final bit of every season of The Ultimatum where they resume their original, you know, partnerships in their original partnership trial marriages, it's kind of a snooze fest. And honestly, the last couple of episodes feel that way. But I wanted to turn to the Haley Pilar situation because, and I alluded to it earlier, because they do get back together and there isn't any concealment of the fact that Haley has, quote unquote, fallen in love with Megan, has done so quickly, has formed a quote unquote genuine connection or bond, right? And it's like, it's kind of incredible that they, you know,
They were fucking.
that they, you know, that they do that they talk. And that for me, I was just like, oh, this is interesting. This is where, Amanda-Faye, what you were saying also earlier about the fact of their longevity, sometimes we kind of cast as tragedy or an unfortunate thing, largely for Pilar, who didn't get an exogamous sexual experience this time around. But
I almost wish
you know,
that there was some, like, there's so many fundamental flaws with the structure of this show, especially applied to queer people. I haven't, after the last season of the Queer Ultimatum, which is what we all call it, even though it's not called that. I was like, oh, I'm going to watch the straight one because I haven't. But one of the things that would be so fun actually would be if somehow it was structured in a way that, and this would be a good fantasy points too, that at the end we could find out which couples had a pre-existing agreement. And of course, like, you know, maybe that takes away from the reality, but it would have to be restructured because I do now believe that, Pilar and Haley definitely had a pre-existing agreement that they could do whatever they wanted.
Yeah, for sure.
And, you know, and then Pilar, you know, got the short end of the stick, obviously. She picked the wrong pony. And Pilar's so hot. It's just unfortunate that she didn't get that, but maybe they found it somewhere else. But yeah, I actually did remember the moment that made me go like, oh, this is actually kind of beautiful. What they have going on was when the Pilar and Haley reunited with Haley's dad, and Haley's dad was like, you know, your family, and I just want you, I care about you too. And Pilar got emotional, and I was like, oh, this has been a long-standing relationship, like a very loving, long-standing relationship. And I feel like all I saw in the beginning was like two people who should probably try something else out. And, you know, they did. And so that's kind of like a cool thing that happened on this show. Sort of. For Haley.
Yeah. That was really beautiful. And I really felt that as somebody with kind of without parents, when other people's parents are like, I see you. And here I'm saying something that's healing. And then you just are like, oh my God, I deserve this. Are you sure?
It's so meaningful. I think I made a meme like 6 years ago, and it was like a dog like following someone in the back, and I was like, when it said like when a woman of a similar age to my mom like sees something, like sees me for who I am, it's just like very much like it's so meaningful when like a parent like figure sees that, and I'm like, oh, Haley and Pilar are family.
Yeah, they're really both so mature about it. But we find out, just to bring the pettiness back, we find out that Haley and Megan had sex so many times she can't even count.
Yeah.
like Pilar's like, how many times? And she's like, it literally couldn't even tell you because that's all we were doing. I heard someone on TikTok who I probably will never see again. She was like, they fucked till the room stank. And I was like, wow, I've never heard that poetry before in my life.
I was going to say so poetic. Beautiful. Yeah, I mean, I was trying, I mean, it was hard because it's like, I did immediately think Megan was like hot, you know, but it was like people have our age, like have been saying like it is getting harder to find these people hot because it's like you know, they're so young. Like, I am technically old enough to be Megan's mom.
How old is Megan? 8?
28.
Yeah, we could all be Megan's mom, unfortunately.
Yeah, so, you know, but I
I
will
could be her
say,
grandparent.
Karen could be Megan's grandparent.
Grandpa.
I was trying, like, not that I was trying to avoid sexualizing them or anything, but I don't tend to do that. But Haley, Megan sex does something for me. Like, I like the two muscle mommies together, like, I am into that. So I'm happy for them that they stank up.
Muscle mommy, muscle zaddy.
Mm-hmm, yeah, exactly.
Can I ask both of you, and I don't want to get into the reunion, but I want to ask both of you, what level of sex what do you think Mel and Dana were doing? That they think they're getting by on a technicality? My guess is leg humping to a climax.
Yeah.
I think frottage.
Good old fashioned tribadism.
Yeah.
Clothes, tribadism. Over, I mean, there's one
Under the clothes. I actually think that they touched each other with their hands.
But not inside? Because they kind of make a weird distinction about penetration at some point, which we'll talk about next week. But I'm just like, so what were they doing? Because they definitely were having, like, the shirt was off.
I mean, there's so many questions too, is like, because when someone says we didn't finger each other, what is then fingering? Is that only finger fucking, or is it clitoral stimulation? I am of the belief that external clitoral, and I say clitoral because I had a religion teacher in high school that said clitoral. I guess clitoral is, what is it?
Potato.
Yeah. Okay. I think external stimulation is sex in this context, but like, are they loopholing because it wasn't? Yeah, insertion.
I think they're loopholing.
Yeah.
I think that it's absolutely loopholing. I don't think it's just vigorous grinding, honestly. You know what I mean?
They're like Mormoning. They're like, I put my hand here and she humped on my fingers. That's not, yeah.
Well, I'm just like, did somebody have an orgasm? Okay, that's it.
Yeah,
that's all we need to know.
Exactly. Yes, please. Like, why that should have been the answer. Like, sorry. I'm getting to the reunion. I tried so hard not to watch it for this recording, but I couldn't do it.
For about 3 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, but that's really, yeah. I mean, I think that obviously it's a loophole. Obviously, I think that, you know, when we see Mel and Dana know that something is afoot and Haley has said something to Marie and they get together and they're like, what are we going to do about this? Mm-hmm. That is when they formulated the Bill Clinton strategy together.
Yes,
That's when they created this whole like kind of loophole scenario. And like Bill Clinton himself, I did not have sexual relations with that woman. You know, it like they made themselves believe that was the truth. You know, I think that once you believe, that's the key to passing a polygraph test, even if you've done the thing that they're asking you about, is that you have to believe in the lie. And I think that that's where they've landed, Mel and Dana. And it seems like Dana may have disclosed more to Megan once they were enmeshed in their 3-week reunion, but Mel stuck to her guns and continued to essentially gaslight Marie in front of their 3 cats.
In front of their cats, one of whom had received an engagement proposal from Marie. So Marie and Mel are talking, and basically like it is like codependent bottoming out of Marie being like, I'm going to provide this safe home for you and you're going to get there and you're going to whatever. And Mel just keeps being like, and every time you talk about love, that's exactly not what I want. Like when Marie's like, love is someone being kind to you and having a home for you and blah, blah, blah. And Mel's like, ugh, that's repulsive to me. And Mel's like, I don't know, babe. I can't promise you anything. I go back and forth all the time.
That was so painful. That's such a painful conversation to follow. Like, you know, and it broke my heart when Mel was like, I don't know if I want safe. And Marie was like, you know, aware enough to be like, I'm safe, you know, and like I was like, ooh, ouch.
What I don't feel is safe were the meatballs that they made for their final dinner at their condo once they reunited. At first I thought, oh, what a clever way of addressing the meatball situation. Just remove the skins of some Italian sausage, and then like muddle it up together and turn them into meatballs. I think maybe they added a tiny bit of breadcrumbs and egg, but anyway, I just say that I object. I object to that. Either you cook it as a sausage or you make meatballs, but you don't do that to your.
So much culinary centering in
hot
this
Italian.
episode and in this season. And I'm like, I don't know about this food truck, guys. I don't know about this. Like, you know, I was thinking about the Lake Waterford chocolate thing where the food, you can taste the feelings in the food. I'm like, this food truck is making people cry all over town. Like, heartbreak food.
And the Brussels sprouts. Well, we'll
talk about the Brussels sprouts.
Okay. Yeah, I also did want to say I observed that when Pilar and Haley had their moving dinner with Haley's dad, that they presented both white and brown rice.
Ooh.
I noticed that too. I was like, is that the whole meal? I do want to say when Megan and Dana were having their first big conversation on their deck, they had a bottle of Taco Bell hot sauce between them as the centerpiece.
I saw that the slight product placement there. Okay. So by means of I think moving towards our conclusion.
We get to the proposals.
We get to the proposals. Like we need to talk about what the outcomes actually are because the resumption of coupledom for most people, I don't even feel like getting into it. AJ and Bridget have Japanese barbecue at Gyukaku, which is a chain that I actually rather like myself.
Brittany?
There's one in downtown LA.
AJ and Brittany.
Excuse me. AJ and Brittany. Bridget, I get so confused.
There's too many B's, too many M's.
The name adjacencies. But, you know, they have a loving conversation, a makeout session over Gyukaku barbecue. And then it seems like things are on the up and up. Bridget and Kyle like have a moving conversation with Kyle's parents, but you know, it seems like things are on the up and up. Ashley and Marita actually are on the rocks, and we get one of our talk about the fantasy league storm out situations when Marita and Ashley are playing snooker together or pool or whatever it is. And, you know, Marita keeps harping on about romance. I wanted to say here that I think that I finally figured out what Marita means by romance.
Sex.
Absolutely. It's not flowers. It's not candles. It's not grand gestures. It's like, I need you to rail me. Please rail me.
I agree.
Right?
I agree. And then I think that's what she's been doing this euphemism to like, because she's Midwestern or because she's trying to protect and not embarrass Ashley or something. I think that's part of it is she's like, sure, like remember in the first episode of the L Word Ever where someone like got like a little like vibrator and like rubbed it on the other person's like neck and torso before fucking them with it. That's what Marita wants, but she wants the romance to end in like the vibrator getting, I mean, who
Going where
who does
vibrators
this? Anyway, but also side note, they had like some drinks with Ashley's family, like sisters who were like, you guys can break up. It's okay. We actually think you should break up.
They were begging them to break up. They were begging on hands and knees for them to break up. And side note, I missed the Chiron, so I didn't know whose people those were. And I was like, Ashley and Marita also look too much alike. And their friends and family look like I was like, I'm not even rewinding because it doesn't matter.
I think one of them was Ashley's twin. Literally. I know this from listening to another podcast. I was not paying attention.
That's why I was so confused about like this sort of litter of golden retrievers that we were like.
We have a bunch of Midwestern white people and some of them are telling the other ones you should break up. All right.
Yeah.
Next couple.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah. So, but which is to say that's kind of where we like leave off. And it's pretty apparent. It's just like, you know, the fact that Ashley can't even kiss Marita without like, you know, Edward Scissorhandsing their way towards her.
It was physically painful to watch them interact in any way. Like they were truly repellent. Yeah.
Oh, but still, Marita was unhappy that Ashley didn't want to get married on proposal day. Ashley's like, I think we shouldn't get married. And Marita's like, you know what? I was ready today to say yes.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, let's get into it now. Now that we've basically done the quick roundabout with everybody else. So on ultimatum day, first of all, you know, we get the first arrival, which is it not Haley?
Oh, Haley. I spoiled this for somebody one of my friends mentioned to me in text, the low ponytail of Megan as she arrives to proposal day. What did somebody on the WhatsApp say? Looking like she's about to sell you a nice used Kia. Like, she's got the untailored suit straight from H&M. She's got the low ponytail. She meets, and I spoiled it for a friend because I mentioned Megan's later engagement, and my friend was like, I wasn't there yet because I forgot right at the top, Megan and Haley.
You know what? I wasn't
Yeah,
sure if we were going to talk about the ponytail today because I couldn't remember if that was the reunion or the engagement, but it was the engagement. The thing about the ponytail, and I wish Dani was here to defend the ponytail because in the WhatsApp chat, Dani was like kind of on team ponytail, not to put her on blast, but I was like, the ponytail would have worked if the pants weren't so tight. If Megan had been wearing like, you know, one of those, I mean, Karen, you maybe know what the style is actually called. I'm not like mask fashion, but you know, like those kind of 90s, like, pleated front pants that are now, thank God, coming back for men.
Cabareti's.
Yes. If Megan had been wearing like a stylish pair of those, like with the ponytail, I'd be like, okay, this is giving 90s like realness, but
it would be giving Color Me Back.
Right. Exactly. Oh my God. That's perfect. Yes. And I would have, as someone who had a crush on every member of Color Me Bad, been on board, but as it stands with the tight pants, the ponytail was offensive.
Yeah. But essentially what ends up happening is that Haley and Megan, before they basically bring their relationships to culmination on Ultimatum Day, have to have a conversation first. We saw this with Xander and Yoli having to talk to each other and see where they were at. And basically Haley's like, you know, Haley brings a t-shirt for Megan. We don't know what's on the t-shirt. It remains rolled up. So I don't know if anybody out there has found what's on the t-shirt yet. But the long and short of it is that Megan sticks to her guns that she wasn't really in love. I'm not in love, you know. So don't forget it. Anyway.
Good.
And thank you. And Haley is just like, I really don't want you in my life. Like, I really don't need you in my life. It's just like, this is it. End of story. Or here's where the story ends. Ciao. I'm going to go propose to Pilar. And then she does propose to Pilar. And honestly, it seems sweet and authentic. Or Pilar rather proposes to Haley, using one of the rings.
I'm so sorry, but can I interject one thing?
Please.
Sure, of course.
We need to talk about you need to apologize to Dana of it all of that.
Oh shit! I forgot about it. Breathe just past
that moment.
Please, will you recount it, Amanda-Faye? Please.
They were meeting back up. There was iciness. I do think that Haley did intend to propose to Pilar, and I don't think, you know, in these meetings, it seems to be the intention that they're going to be like, wait, we must come back together. But yeah, the t-shirt was given. She said, do you want to open it now or no? And like Karen said, it was a no. So we still don't know what's on it unless Haley has revealed, or Megan, but when Megan is once again reiterating that it was really not much of a thing, she says, and it was disrespectful of you to like continue to pursue me after. I mean, I think she's alluding to like the time that she texted her after the club. Like, and she was like, and you know, and that wasn't cool. And that was disrespect. Like we could see her getting her nerve up, you know, and that was disrespectful. And, you're going to need to also apologize to Dana. And I love Haley's face in that moment of just like, and then that's when Haley's like, and I never want to see you again. And I
Haley's
was like,
I will not be apologizing to Dana.
Yeah. And then, and so that was like I thought that moment was just like so juicy.
That was a great moment. It was a juicy moment. It was better than any of the proposals we watched. Essentially, Pilar drops on a knee, proposes to Haley. They decide to get married. And, you know, in the fantasy league, I actually picked them to split. So there go 5 points for me. I lost those 5 points. But very reliably, the next proposal I think we get to see is between AJ and Brittany. And there is like, AJ presents a long and flowery speech. We're sort of made to believe there's some sort of hesitation, but I knew all the way that really there was not going to be any hesitation. I think that they probably planned to kind of make their way to the altar.
You don't let a girl like Brittany go. That is the least realistic thing of the whole season, is anyone would let a girl like Brittany go. No.
Yeah. No one would let a girl like Brittany go. AJ and Brittany end up engaged. Ka-ching, 5 points for me. They look radiant and beautiful.
I was emotionally touched. I'm sorry. I mean, I hate to, I'm not a hopeless romantic as Marita would say, but I was really touched by that proposal.
I need to add one thing
Yeah.
that I never said before, which is AJ kept being like, you have your business and it all happened so fast. And I'm like, bitch, she's an RN. She went to nursing school for years before starting this
Yeah.
business. You've had some time to catch up. Anyway, AJ is caught up in the realm of love. La la la.
Yeah. Another situation where, excuse me, I thought I
It's the
put my phone
producers
on
of
Do
The
Not
Amazing
Disturb.
Race.
They're like, they hear me. Anyway. So, we're caught up with those guys. We get to Kyle and Bridget.
Weird.
And honestly, I just, from a fantasy league perspective, I wondered what was going to happen. And I went back and forth. The first week I had them down as splitting, but then when we submitted our, final thoughts this week, I'm just like, you know what? They're going to end up saying they're going to get married. And it's just sort of because the show presents no other option to remain together unless you propose and agree to an engagement. But like shows like The Bachelor and every other kind of reality format where there is an engagement, you can extend that engagement as long as you need to. See, Sam and Ozzy are ostensibly still together, still engaged, but still haven't gotten married.
Thank God.
So, the ultimatum only lasts for the purposes of the show. Sorry to puncture your, reality fantasy world. But that's when I realized that Bridget and Kyle would stay together. They'd agree to get married. Kyle cries. It's sort of sweet. Bridget accepts it. And, they seem pretty happy.
Bridget's wearing a wild ass jacket at first
Oh
in
yeah,
that
there's
proposal.
a whole that thing with the jacket. My spouse Sarah was just like, can she stop fussing with the jacket already? There's so much jacket removal build up to the proposal, but overall it happens. Great. Ka-ching, another 5 points for me in that area.
I feel like these long engagements are like the one thing about the show that is like actually sort of true to how queer life was before gay marriage was legal. Remember when lesbians would just announce their engagements on Facebook and we would be like, okay, you know what I mean? And then getting engaged as a lesbian Facebook official was like, okay, sure. You know what I mean? Like, and not even in a mean way, but just in a like, okay, this is just something we all do. And like, so that in that way, I guess the show is very queer in like fostering these long engagements.
It's just like, you guys really like each
Absolutely.
other. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. We get it.
Well, it's good. You like each other. But then we get to the Ashley Marita of it, which we've already alluded to that, like, that did not, go where we thought. That actually, Ashley did not just doormat her way towards the altar. Even though Marita, I think, just wanted, because the grand gesture of a proposal is something that suffices as a romantic gesture, right? One that Marita can post on Instagram or do whatever she needs to do with these external and large gestures of romance. And so, I actually predicted their split. From the beginning. I never once thought they would be together or remain together until the end. And I'm glad to have been right. And I think they're both better off trying to find better lives than the ones that they had together.
Couldn't be happier for them.
Move on.
Yeah.
Turn the page.
Okay. So let's get to Dana before Dana and Megan address their proposal situation, we get another, I guess a little check-in between Mel and Dana off to the side. Trying to assess.
Oh my God.
Let's talk, like, what's happening here. Mel says, I think I want to throw up. The color of Mel's shirt too closely resembles the color of her pants, and yet they don't match. There's a lot going on. Amanda-Faye, do you want to tell us about this encounter?
Well, we had just seen, wait, we're talking about the Mel and Dana encounter? Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Sorry. I was already moving up to the Marie and Mel part because it was also, I was sick to my stomach. So they meet up and I feel like, Dana was really mommying. Like, what do you mean you feel sick to your stomach? Like, that sort of like moving her through it. And then, Dana mentioned a letter, like, yesterday when I was cleaning out my apartment, I found this letter from you. The
most beautiful letter I've ever received.
The most beautiful letter I've ever received. These kids, how many letters have they gotten is the first question.
Five over the course of their life.
Yes, exactly. And then, she talks about how, just how meaningful that their time together was. And like, wait, I don't remember what happens in between that and the moment that she sort of like mommies Mel into talking about what Mel's plan is with Marie.
There's very little time that
Okay.
elapses. It's just sort of, we get the letter recap. We get this sort of moment of mushiness and sentimentality between them. I see in Dana's, there's no doubt that what Dana's going to do, but she asks Mel and Mel's like, I don't know. I'm nervous. I feel like I'm going to throw up. Like,
She said she
I
got
have
her
a
a ring. She
ring.
said she got Marie a ring. And Dana's like, oh, really?
Like, she put the rings that they provided for them.
Exactly.
in her
And then Dana
pocket.
says, are you doing this for you or doing this for her? Which
Dana,
like,
just
Oh.
dropping a little poison in that ear.
Mhm.
Even though she doesn't want Mel, she's like, no one's getting you.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's so, I think coming from anyone else, like I think that in Dana's mind, she thinks she's being that good friend, like that good blunt friend. But because of all the other stuff, yes, like it feels like little like slithery.
I know girls like that.
Mm-hmm.
Who are just like, they're like, they may not want you, but they definitely don't want you for anybody else.
I'm just like,
Right?
keep coming back, sister. Saving you a
Yeah.
seat
Yes.
at an anonymous fellowship, letting you know that was unasked for advice and feedback, and Mel doesn't actually need you to run her life. I need to say, but didn't you guys notice, like, Dana and Mel throughout this whole thing about having these sidebars where they're like, well, we don't know if we're even going to leave with these people. Like, they keep having these conversations, and then they go to their partners, and Dana's like, Megan, I love you, and I want your commitment forever. And then she's over to Mel being like, we don't even know if we're going to leave with these jokers, honestly.
It's true.
Dana
Like,
is also very much giving like, Dana is giving self-producing, like, on reality shows, like, and it's such a fine line. I mean, this is a reality show podcast. I mean, I've actually never watched The Amazing Race, so I don't know how much of that happens.
It's so good.
But like, when you
have.
watch enough reality, you start to be able to clock people who are self-producing, right? And sometimes you're like, thank God, because they're good at it and they are really moving things forward. And sometimes you're like, girl, sit down. And that's kind of also what I was getting from Dana. She's self-producing a lot. I don't know how to explain that for maybe not reality heads, but what I mean by
I think that's absolutely, you described it completely clearly
Okay.
and accurately. And I think that's sort of, I mean, Dana is the boss of, Dana is the boss of every situation, right? In this scenario.
Yeah, I guess she self-produces her life as well, so.
Yeah. She self-produces her life. She's keeping Mel on a string. And anyway, that's sort of the scenario that we've got going on. But that means that the Dana Megan story continues, and that's part of the story that Dana wants. And, Megan gets on one knee. Dana makes a joke about like not being able to get down on a knee because of the, essentially
Her Zara dress is too tight. Wait, Amanda-Faye, did you clock? When she was laying out her multiple Zara dress options the night before, she had her dirty ass shoes on the bed.
Oh my God.
She had like her dirty ass pink shoes on the white comforter of the bed as she was laying out her different Zara dresses. I died.
And why, I mean, I felt like, I will say one thing positive. I'm sorry to not be a negative. I did like the mutual exchange of the rings. Are they the only ones that did it?
Yeah.
I did like that. But watching that proposal was a little bit cringe for me because, when you are, I don't need to tell you this, but when you're filming, you don't know yet that you're the villain. It's shocking to me that Dana wouldn't know she's the villain, but like, so they're having this moment and they think they're being so cute and romantic, right? Like I'm imagining them in their minds, like maybe everyone at home is like, Dana and Megan found each other back again, because they're obviously like drinking it in and loving that they're having this beautiful romantic moment. Meanwhile, they don't know that now, like they are the bane of lesbian TikTok, So, I both love and cringe watching reality shows when something like that happens.
Yeah. And then we get to the moment of truth, which is the Mel Marie relationship. I also predicted, that one, I guess incorrectly. Did I predict? I predicted Dana and Megan would stay together actually. But Mel and Marie, we know Mel has a ring. And then we see it begin to unfold. And to me, this reminded me of the Sam and Ozzy moment of last season, where there's a kind of false ring or
Rock.
a kind of gotcha, gotcha moment where Mel furnishes pop rock, right?
A pop
Is that
ring,
what it's called?
a ring
Pop
pop.
ring. Ring pop.
My least
exactly.
favorite move on any of these shows is the
No.
ring pop. Fuck you.
Stop with the
Yeah.
ring pop.
Fuck you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get
We
that
got the-
out of my face.
Yeah. So we get the ring pop, and I mean, I think that Marie is like holding face, even though she may slightly also be concerned and have like a slight glint of terror in the back of her eyes.
Having to
about
open
what
that
is
ring pop
actually
with her
happening.
teeth, I was like, this is femme humiliation. I'm enraged.
This is not dignified.
Yeah. Until finally the ring in a box that they all get to use at the
From
ultimatum
Zales or
ceremony.
whatever.
Exactly. It's just, every kiss begins with K.
They have a friend in the
You know.
diamond business.
Exactly. Their blood diamond rings are like furnished.
Yeah.
Mel finally furnishes the velvet box, and they're like, of course, it's like, I don't even remember what words are being said because Mel is dead in the eyes. Mel is dead in the eyes at this point. So, yeah.
So then Marie's like, yay, we're getting married. And as far
Yeah.
as we know, at the end of this episode, that's what happened.
Yes.
As far as we know, that's what happened.
And that's all we know.
That's all that we
Yeah.
know. Okay, final thoughts. Can you give this season pre-reunion a grade? And any winners? Oh, then we'll do a round of who's most toxic.
Let's see. I give this season, I don't know. It's hard because we have so few to work with that I'm not really sure that, that we have nothing to kind of average things out with. So
Compared to last
I would
season
just say-
or the way you feel.
I just give this season a B.
Why not an A? What would it need to have done to give you an A?
I mean, I think that it would have needed to furnish the throuple for me, and there actually needed to be some honesty around sexual exogamy and the need for that.
Amanda-Faye?
Yeah. I give it a B minus. I guess because, a sophomore season of reality show is always tough because like now the people know what's going to happen. Now they know they're going to get, a lot of followers. Now so the casting for season 2 can always be a little bit rough. And I think that the cast was just a little bit lackluster. I would have actually gone down to a C compared to last season because last season was so like fun until it wasn't. But I bumped it up to B minus because we did have this like fun sex did they or didn't they conversation, 1. And 2, we did not get, like, I do think there was actually some emotional abuse and manipulation going on in this season. However, we didn't get the like horrific, Mildred and, what's it called? Like that was just such a like shocking and horrific end to last season that if we're comparing the two, I still think we're in the B range with us.
I give it a low B as well. I think the femme for femme pairing was bogus. I think, that was just like wasted time. That was wasted time. And also they should have locked them in their rooms so that AJ and they should have taken their phones and locked them in their rooms. I don't know why people were getting to sneak around and talk to each other and do things off camera. What's the point of this being a show if everyone's living rich, full lives off camera? Like, lock them up. Lock them up.
the tape on the door of the Drag Race,
tape on the door of Drag Race. Like you have nothing but time to ruminate, get nuts as you get drunker and drunker on camera. That's what we're paying Netflix to see.
Exactly.
Okay,
They spent all the money on the Chapel Roan song, and they didn't have any money for the tape.
Good God, who hasn't used that Chapel Roan song by this? And just like that had a Chapel Roan song. Okay, so who's most toxic? Who's your MVP?
Gosh.
MVT.
MTP, most toxic player.
Yeah. Thank you.
I mean, I think I'm going to go here with Dana.
Yeah.
For the coercive controlling behaviors, for the fact that she is actually so good at self-producing in these different ways. I think that there's, certainly a hint of psychopathy there. I mean, look, I'm not a mental health professional. I'm just using that term loosely as an armchair idiot who talks on a podcast. But I'll say that, I think that, I have concerns about like being able to say one thing in one arena, knowing the cameras are filming it and still being able to like turn in another direction, having seemingly compartmentalized that so cleanly. So I would say that in my mind, that's who's the scariest, because even though Mel also can lie, Mel's poker face is terrible. And Mel, I think ultimately is quite vulnerable, and a more vulnerable subject than Dana is.
Pre-reunion, because I think I might have a different answer. Not necessarily, whatever, but, I mean, I know it's cheating to be, Megan and Dana, but, in the final couple episodes, seeing how they work together in this way that feels so toxic and uncomfortable. Like, I do think it's both of them. I think it was fun to sort of be like, what's Dana doing to Megan? Megan's got to get out of there in the early episodes. And I totally agree with you, Karen. Like, I definitely was, and as I mentioned earlier, I was so like the calling immediately threatening to break up, like as a hello thing was like as a way to bring someone closer to you is so toxic and so like triggering. So, I mean, ultimately, yes, I would say Dana, but I think Dana and Megan's like style of relationship and the familiarity of it that I've, seen in the queer community, and that was like the most toxic element for me. Yeah.
It takes two to tango.
Oh, I would love to see Megan and Dana pivot directly to couples therapy, the show.
Yeah.
I would love to see them on Orna's couch. I guess, I mean, I don't want to bag on the femme, but I gotta say Dana too. I just think Dana and Mel both have a lot of healing to do. I think Mel and Ashley both have a lot of inner child work to do. And I would love to take all these people to like a silent meditation retreat or something that included like a lot of therapy. So yeah, I think Dana, because I want her to slow her roll and take a breath and not. Yeah. I think it's like the kind of thing. It's like there's like a thing in SLA, Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous. I can't remember if it's called banking or what, but it's like when people keep other people on the sidelines just in case as a backup. And I feel like Dana keeping keeping Mel on the line as a backup, even though she had no impulse to actually be with that person. That's how she won most toxic for me.
Yeah. I think ultimately, like, you're right. I feel like that is for me, that's kind of the tragedy of Dana is that I think she could be like a cool person. I think, right. And I think, I think that actually, in the beginning it was more fun to be like, she sucks. And, but to be like, I think actually she could be like a really cool, smart, interesting person to have in your corner, like that femme that's going to like step up for you as a friend, but she needs to heal and work on her romantic relationships. Yeah.
She needs some tools.
Tools.
Yeah.
Right now she's working with weapons. We'd love to give her a sack of tools.
Yes. Perfect.
And the term that I meant to use was sociopathy, not psychopathy.
Oh.
So, psychopathic, etc.
All better.
Just a correction.
Looking up the difference.
She'll be thrilled either way.
Well, we're going to be coming back next week to talk about the reunion episode. Amanda-Faye, thank you for joining us on this episode.
Thank you so much for having me.
For coming to the Gaymazing Race. If you ever do end up watching the Amazing Race, we'd love to have you as a guest back on TGR sometime.
I'm going to watch it, and I'm going to tell you why. It's because of the theme song of this podcast.
Thank you so much. Produced by Kaya Wilson.
Oh, wow. Yeah. It's so good. I had never, I listened to it the other day and I was like, why is this the best theme song ever? And that made me want to watch The Amazing Race. So here we are.
Amanda-Faye, where can people find you?
I am sort of still on Instagram at Failure Princess. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm hopefully going to be doing some more live performances in the coming months, but I was on brief hiatus because I wanted to be, but now I'm sort of back. So yeah, I do post my performances on IG mostly.
Wonderful. All right, Karen, we'll see you next week with Greta and Palomi to discuss the reunion.
I can't wait.
Absolutely. See you next week, folks.
The Gaymazing